Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a place of pure legend, a whole lot of confusion, and constant change. And it's right in the heart of St. Paul, Minnesota. We're talking about Carver's Cave.
So let's start with the guy who put this place on the map, Captain Jonathan Carver. This description comes from his absolute bestseller back in 1778, and wow, did it ever spark a fascination and a mystery that has lasted for centuries.
So picture this. Carver's an explorer, he's fresh from the French and Indian Wars, and he's making his way up the Mississippi. He describes this great cave with an entrance about 10 feet wide and 5 feet high. Once you're inside, it opens up into this big, arched chamber, maybe 15 feet tall, with a sandy floor, and a massive, dark lake stretching into the blackness.
But long before Carver ever showed up, this cave was so much more than just a geological feature. To the local Dakota tribes, this was Walkon Tepee, and it was situated directly below their ancient burial mounds on the bluff right above. For them, this was a deeply sacred place. Think of it as a portal, where the sounds and the reflections in that dark water connected them to the spirit world.
All right, so let's get into it, because just a few decades after Carver's book came out and everybody read his description, the story starts to get, well, really confusing. Other explorers, totally inspired by Carver's book, started showing up looking for this famous landmark. But when Major Stephen H. Long got there, just 51 years later, what he found didn't seem to match the legend at all. Not even close.
I mean, just look at this comparison. The difference is night and day. Carver talks about an entrance you can walk into, leading to a cavern you can stand up in. But Long, he says you have to get down on your belly and crawl through a low opening into a space shaped like a baker's oven.
So what was going on here? This huge discrepancy created the central mystery of Carver's Cave. I mean, could a massive geological feature like that really change so drastically, so fast? Early visitors were totally baffled. They just assumed the cave must have had some kind of catastrophic collapse.
Okay, so how do we solve this? Well, it turns out those early explorers were missing a huge piece of the puzzle. The answer wasn't a single collapsing cave.
We know now that the area actually had several caves. It's almost certain that what Major Long stumbled into was the much smaller Dayton's Cave. And other people, like the explorer Henry Schoolcraft, were actually visiting the much larger Fountain Cave, all the while thinking they were at Carver's famous spot.
And this is where things get really wild. You have travelers like this Italian guy, Giacomo Beltrami, who wrote an account that was basically a mashup. He took the description of the long, stream-filled Fountain Cave and combined it with the Native American legends and history of Carver's Cave, creating this one legendary but totally physically impossible location.
And this chart really breaks it down for us. It shows the simple differences that explorers at the time were just completely overlooking. Carver's Cave, that's the shorter one, downstream, with a lake inside. Fountain Cave is the long one, located above town, and it has a stream running through it. See, once you know what you're looking for, untangling the historical records becomes a whole lot easier.
But here's the thing, mistaken identity, that was only part of the story. The cave actually was changing, just not in the way that they thought.
So you have to picture this natural cycle happening over and over again. The soft sandstone cliffs above would crumble, burying the entrance under rock and dirt. This would basically act like a dam for the spring inside, making the lake level rise and fall like crazy over the years. Then, eventually, someone would come along and dig it open again, and the whole cycle would just restart.
And right on top of that natural cycle, you have humans getting involved, and that's when things get really chaotic. In the 1860s, railroad construction came this close to just obliterating it. Then in 1913, an entrepreneur tried to turn it into a tourist trap, complete with electric signs. It got reopened by the city in the 70s for the bicentennial, before, finally, it was protected for good in 2005.
So where does that leave the cave today? Well, it's still there, it's protected, but believe it or not, the mysteries are far from over. So after all of that, after being buried, rediscovered, and almost completely destroyed, the cave is finally safe. It's a protected historical landmark. Its chilly spring water, which flows at a steady 25 gallons per minute, is now a key feature of the whole nature sanctuary. And inside that darkness, you'd think it would be empty, right? But nope, there's this incredible little ecosystem thriving in there, and it's all based on, get this, decaying leaves that wash inside. That organic stuff feeds these tiny freshwater shrimp, which in turn support flatworms, snails, and even minnows.
And of course, the human stories, the legends, they're still around too. There's a story of a cursed treasure chest supposedly buried by a Blackfeet chief that's fueled treasure hunts for decades. And even more tantalizing are these sensational claims from 1913 about undiscovered, massive chambers deep inside the cave system that have never, ever been confirmed.
And that brings us to this final fascinating clue. In 1999, a beaver was found living inside the cave. Now, beavers are known to build their lodges deep inside caves for protection. So does its presence maybe lend a little weight to those old claims of hidden inner rooms? It seems this 250-year-old mystery is still far, far from solved.